What's going on, everybody? Bauer Brown here. Welcome back to the channel, guys. In the video that I have for you guys today, we're going to be going over the AI drive cost and how does the AI use that to move around more specifically. Okay. The reason we're going to touch upon this now, I know that we just went over this in another video. In that video, it was adding textures to our map. Okay, additional textures. We touched on this. Okay, but reading the forums and watching some videos and even talking to some folks, I kind of see that people are having a little bit. There's still some questions around this. Okay, that people aren't fully understanding the way that this works. All right. Now the explanation that I'm going to give to you guys today is basically based on my own research, my own reading, my own testing. So these are my opinions. So I could be mistaken along the way, but I'm pretty darn sure I got this close to figured out. All right. So what happens here when the AI moves around? First of all, there's a few different methods that they use, right? And they're going to prioritize one over the other if it makes sense at the time. Right. So, and what I mean by that is, for example, if you look around here and you see all those red dotted lines just spread all over the map there, excuse me. Okay, those are the traffic splines, right? That's the traffic system, right? So the AI is going to definitely utilize those as a preferred method of transportation if it makes sense, right? So if he's going over into a field here, right, he's not going to pick an AI spline, well, basically because there's none that go there. Or let's, put the shoe on the other foot and say, if he's going to be traveling down this road here, now they're underneath this road, there's gravel dirt, but he's not going to navigate utilizing the gravel dirt because it doesn't make sense. There's a road spline right here. Okay. So hopefully that made a little bit of sense. The third one. So the three different methods that they use to navigate would be road splines, first of all, AI splines, secondly. Now, an AI spline, I'll tell you in a minute what that means, okay? But AI splines would be the second, and then textures would be the third. Now, the way I see textures and AI drive cost, the way I see those being utilized would be for shorter distances, in my opinion, right? So if you're trying to get out of a field and over to the traffic system, right, where there's a more preferred method of travel. Okay. So that's kind of the way I see that being utilized. All right. Now with the, concerning the AI drive cost. Okay. Now that's divided up into, into tiers based on a number system, right? So the lower numbers, right? Let's say 2 is the lowest. Now I know that I did state in another video that you can go as low as 0. And I'm going to tell you right off that I have not personally tested that, okay? I didn't personally test the 0. You may or may not be able to do that. So for the sake of this video and this explanation, I'm going to say that 2 is as low as we can go, okay? So let's just say that 2 is a very, very safe number. And that's going to include items like concrete. It's going to include asphalt, gravel dirt, that sort of thing. Now, as you start to get further away from the safer textures, and by that I mean the 2s, and that would be your asphalts and concretes and stuff, you'll start hitting dirts, which is dirt is an 8. I know that one just off the top of my head. Grass, which is probably a bit of a higher number, until you get into stuff like mountain rock, right? And that's a really high number because you wouldn't typically, drive on mountain rock. It's a mountain. You wouldn't want to do that. It doesn't make sense, right? The other ones would be like water. You normally, like a roadway, you would never make out of water. It doesn't make any sense, right? I know I have done it, but I didn't call it a road. I called it a river. And I didn't expect the AI to drive down it, right? Because it has a higher cost. Okay. And those costs, you can change the value of those costs, right? To better suit your map. And that I will also explain a little bit later in this video because I have a pretty cool example, pretty cool visual example that I want to show you guys, right? So we're going to get to that in a little bit. Let's just hang tight, okay? So let me go through this explanation. Like I said, your 2s and your lower numbers are going to be your safer bets, right? So the AI is always going to pick those lower numbers. and that's going to be within his field of view. Okay, so I just highlighted my brush here. Okay, let's say that red circle there, that's my field of view. So that's as far as the AI is going to be looking when he's looking at different textures. Now remember, the AI does not see things the way you and I see things. He doesn't see dirt, he doesn't see grass, he doesn't see mountain rock, doesn't see water. He sees 2s and 3s and 4s, and he sees 9s, right? So he doesn't necessarily know that the 2 is gravel, dirt, or gravel, or concrete. He just knows that it's safe to drive on. Okay, so it's not going to look weird driving down the middle of a river, right? Because the river is going to be higher, like a 16. So he's going to know to stay the heck away from there. We don't want to do that. All right. So let's say the arrow in the middle of that circle there, say that's the vehicle, the AI. Okay. So now we're in this field, and we tell the AI that we want to go way up to the upper left here. Say the animal dealer, that's up there somewhere. Okay. So now the AI knows where, basically, because the AI is the computer, it's all knowing, right? So it knows where everything is on this map, all the placeables and stuff like that. He knows where everything's at. So he does know that starting out, if you tell him, hey, AI, I want you to head over to the animal dealer and drop this off for me and then come back. Okay, no problem. Well, how's he going to do that? He knows, first of all, which direction the animal dealer is in, okay? So he's going to start heading to the upper left here, right? To the upper left of the screen. All right, so here he goes. He's going to start out. Now, have you ever noticed when you tell the AI to go somewhere, they start out a little weird, like herky-jerky, a little bit to the left, maybe a little bit to the right, kind of like they're drunk, like starting out like, what are you doing? You definitely look like you've been having a few drinks. That's kind of why, because what he's doing here, it's sort of, if you can imagine it this way, it's kind of like trying to navigate in the dark, right? He's kind of like using radar, looking at these different numbers, right? So he sees right now he's surrounded by 8s. Anything within that red circle is all 8s. So he's just kind of trying to feel around in the dark, just looking for a better number, right? Looking for a lower number, something that makes more sense for him to drive on. So he's going real slow until he gets up to the edge of the field, and all of a sudden the textures change. But he sees that as a number change. Okay, so the dirt, now I know it's animal mud, but bear with me. Let's just pretend it's dirt, okay? So he sees the animal mud, or see, even now I said it. He sees the dirt, and that's an 8, okay? But all of a sudden, he gets up to the edge of the field. It changes the grass, and that's a lower number. Hey, that makes more sense for him to drive on, right? Let's go with that lower number. It makes more sense. All right, so he gets himself into the grass here, and he starts going a little bit further. All of a sudden, it changes to a 2. Now it's really starting to make more sense. So he goes a little bit further, and we start to see a pattern developing, right? He sees a long line of 2s here surrounded by an 8, and let's just say grass is a 4. All right, so he's always going to pick that lower value. So he's going to stick with that 2 because it makes the most sense. He knows that's his safest bet. It's going to be an asphalt. It's going to be a concrete. It's going to be a gravel or gravel dirt, something like that. All right, so he navigates himself over to there. All right, so now he's oriented on this pathway, and he can kind of see that pattern developing, a line of 2s. So he's going to start to follow those 2s, right? Because he sees that basically as his pathway, the path of least resistance, let's call it that, okay? So, off to his left, he has some 8s and 4s, but in the middle, we got 2. So he's going to keep following that, right? Follow it, and all of a sudden, boom, right there, something changed. Well, what changed? Well, a road spline popped into view. And like I said, he's going to prioritize over what makes the most sense at the time. And since the traffic system, a traffic spline, you can get from point A to point B. You don't have to be feeling around in the dark, looking at 2s and 6s and 8s and stuff like that. You're kind of like, think about it this way. Once he gets himself onto that spline, he's magnetically stuck to it, right? And it just and it shoots him off to where he needs to go. He can follow it blindly. He doesn't have to look at anything. It just takes him right to where he needs to go. Okay, so he hops onto the spline. There's no driving drunk anymore. There's no left, right, because we're not feeling around in the dark. It's like following a string, basically, right? So he's going to follow the string, and it's going to take him exactly to where he needs to go, over here to the animal dealer. So he's going to follow this, no problem. Right. And this traffic spline, this traffic system, by the way, isn't just for your for your helpers, for your AI helpers. Okay. When you're playing on your map and you see, you know, the cars and the trucks and stuff like that driving around, they're following this traffic system that you see here. Now, I know most of you guys probably already know this, but some of you don't. Some of you guys are just learning. So bear with me here. Okay. So your AI helpers, you know, he's cruising down this road here. Now he knows, like I said, he knows where everything is at. He knows that he's in the area of the animal dealer. He knows that there's a placeable over here. Now I know you can't see it right now, but there is a placeable when this map loads up for the animal dealer, and there is a AI spline attached to that. Okay. So now what he's going to do, and let me explain something really quickly about the AI splines. Let's go over here. I believe one of these is the AI spline. Yes, on this bridge, this is an AI spline. It looks just like an ordinary spline, right? There's no big difference like in color, like red and green or anything like that. It looks just like a normal AI spline. The only difference is we categorize it differently, right? We assign different attributes to it to let it know that that is an AI spline. Okay, so what this AI spline does is it helps him get from one area, like a safer texture, across an area that he would not normally cross, right? So what do we see there? We see water. Okay, we normally wouldn't cross water because that has a much higher AI drive cost, right? Because so when he sees that, so say he's cruising along gravel, we're doing good. All of a sudden we hit the bridge and textures start to change. Now he's seeing the numbers. Now, water itself isn't a texture. I understand that. It's whatever's underneath he wouldn't normally pick. So there's probably like river mud or something underneath there, right? There is. Yep, I can see it. Riverbed. Okay. And that's just a yucky texture for him. That's high up there. That's, you know, a 12 or a 16. And he normally wouldn't pick that because there's other textures in the area that make more sense. Well, those textures at this point would be like this pathway down here, which is taking him in a completely different direction. And he knows he needs to go in the direction across that bridge. So the AI spline is there to help him. It's basically like a safety net. It's helping him get across a texture that he would not normally pick, right? He wouldn't normally drive over that if there's other textures available. So that's what the AI spline is doing, right? Not to mention it's a bridge. So he is not having to go, you know, like herky jerk, like in the dark. He's not driving drunk across the bridge, just ping ponging, right? Like a pinball, bing, bing, bing off the rails. You know, next thing you know, your AI is in the water. The spline helps him get there safely from one safe texture to another safe texture, which is also a 2, right? On the other side of that bridge. So that's what an AI spline does, right? Just kind of helps him get from one area to another safely. You know, you're not bouncing off the rails. You're not driving in the water. There's no guesswork, right? Okay, so let's get back to the animal dealer there. So that's what the AI spline does, all right? So now we have our AI heading up this road. He knows that the animal dealer is there. He knows there's a placeable with a trigger and a spline, all right? So he knows he needs to head into that direction. So he gets himself off of the traffic system, and we're cruising along here on a safe texture, right? On a 2, on a gravel dirt. You know, and he can see all this stuff as he's going. He can see on his right-hand side this grass or patchy grass or whatever we have over there. He sees the higher values there, so he's going to stay away from that, right? All the while heading in a direction he needs to go, okay? And the left-hand side there, something's starting to creep in a grass, so he's going to keep navigating away from that. All right, here we go. Another one shows up right up here, another grass, so we're going to work around that. All the while heading in a direction he needs to go in. He's staying on a safe texture, which is a 2. The gravel dirt, all of a sudden he'll see the AI spline. He picks that up, and all of a sudden he stops driving drunk, right? Now he knows where he's going. So he goes over here, follows the spline, picks up what he's picking up or drops off what he's dropping off, and off he goes again. Now he's back onto the textures. Okay, so it might be, you know, a little driving drunk and heading in a direction where he knows he needs to go, right? Navigating away from certain objects. And he does know that there are objects in certain places, right? So he might get close to them, but he can see them. I'll explain that a little bit later down the road, but just trust me for now that he knows they're there and he can see them, okay? So we're going through this road here. Off to the left, he sees, you know, numbers he wouldn't typically drive on. Off to the right, he sees numbers that aren't really a safe bet, because he's already driving on a 2. Underneath this roadway on this gravel dirt is a 2. So he's going to work his way through there. Now he knows he needs to go to the left because the field that he came from is in that direction, right? So he's not going to, venture off to the right here because he does have a sense of direction. He knows where everything is at. So as he kind of navigates, his way through here, he picks up the traffic spline again. He sees it, gets himself oriented with the spline, and he follows that traffic system all the way back here to the field that he came from, which was over here. Okay. Well, let me say that in this area, somewhere up in here, he'll know that he wants to get to this field. And as he gets closer, he'll see the twos come in the view, and that's how he'll pick that path back up. He'll leave the traffic system, get back onto that nice pattern of twos that are heading through the middle of here, and he'll get himself back to where he came from, where he needs to be. All right, so hopefully I didn't butcher that too badly, and it makes a little bit more sense to you guys, okay? And that too could be any number, right? So like I said, it's what's the best choice for him where he's at that moment, right? So those dirts are an 8. Let's say that the grass is a 5, and let's say the gravel dirt is a 4. It's not a 2, but it is still the lowest number where we're at the moment. Okay. So it's the lowest number he has to choose from, thus it's the safest bet, right? So he'll stick with the 4 all the way up, to the road or to the traffic system if that's all that's available, right? So what do we have? We have dirt that's an 8. We have grass that's a 5 or a 6, and we got like a 4. So he'll still take that 4 because it's the lower number. So you get that? You see how he's doing that? He's taking the lowest number he can find within his circle right there, right? Obviously, if he can see the entire world, that he knows that there's much safer numbers out there, but he's not, in the rest of the world right now. He's right here on this road within that circle. So that's where he's looking at. He's looking at within that circle. Okay. I actually think he's looking just kind of a little bit in front of him. Kind of, you can imagine like a little box in front of him. It's kind of where he's looking at, but this will do for a perfect, for a good enough explanation. So that's how he's navigating using those numbers. All right. And hopefully it makes sense to you. Like I said, if you just look at the numbers, it'll start to make sense, like a Mountain Rock being a much higher number. You're never going to drive on that, and you're never going to make a road out of that. But you would make a road out of gravel and asphalt and concrete and those sorts of things. Okay. And like I said, those numbers can be changed to better suit your map. All right. And I'm going to show you a perfect example of that right here in just 1 minute. As soon as I get myself over to this next screen, I can show you what I'm talking about. And let me get myself over there right now. I'll meet you over there. Okay. Okay, here we are. Welcome to Dirt World. This is my very next map release that, man, this took me probably over a year to get to this point. There's just a lot of work that goes into these things, right? And I'm just kidding. It's just a map I threw together in 2 minutes filled with dirt. All right, so now what if I told you I'd give you some crazy amount of money to be able to drive from one end of this map to the other without ever leaving the dirt road? You say you're nuts. What dirt road? What are you even talking about? The whole world is filled with dirt. It is, but it isn't. Trust me when I say that there is a dirt road there. Now, your chances of winning that bet probably wouldn't be very good because, well, you can't see the dirt road. But what if I was to give you the power of the AI? Okay? So what if the world now looked like this? Now, do you think you could do it? Of course, easy now, right? Well, this is what the AI sees, right? So let's have a closer look, and I'll explain a little bit about what's going on here, and you should probably already have an idea. Okay, so as the AI moves along here, you can clearly see down the middle of the road here. Well, you can see the road now because it's defined by these number 2s, right? This green section down the middle. And this is exactly what the AI sees, right? The number 2s are the safe bet to drive on. On either side, you have the 8s. Well, you just have 8s on either side. That's it, right? That's the dirt area. Now, the way I pulled off this effect was to make a second dirt texture, right? Identical to the rest. And I just changed its value, right? So instead of an AI drive cost of 8, I gave it a cost of 2. Okay, so you can see what's going on now. It's really easy for him to navigate and stick to that green road, right? The green mile hidden to the other side of the dirt world here. Okay, so let me speed this up for you a little bit and you can kind of see what's going on here. And there we go, cruising right along. You get the idea, right? Really easy now to stick to that green road, to stick in between those two yellow 8s on either side, right? Stick to the 2 that's the safer bet to drive on. Okay, so this is actually me driving, right? This isn't the AI. But you get the idea, right? So you get the idea of what's going on here. And you can see what I did with the textures if you understand that making the identical texture, making the identical dirt texture. And this way, if you have say if you have like a map that has like you're using the dirt textures for like driveways and fields and stuff like that, but you also have dirt roads. This is a way to assure your AI is going to drive on your dirt road over top of any of the other dirt textures. Okay, so these are identical textures, just a different value. And this is how the AI sticks to that. So let's have a look at what the AI actually sees under normal circumstances. So here we are leaving the starting farm on the Elm Creek map. Okay, just having a look around here, you can see how everything is defined, each one of these textures, right? You can see the green for the gravel dirt there, that's all in 2s. And to the right of us there in that field, everything is 8s. The grass is also an 8. So it's really easy to stick to that dirt path. The AI can stick to that, no problem. Same with the road, right? So we turn onto this road here, and it's all green 2s. It's smooth sailing from here, right? This is how the AI navigates. Now, if you look to the right-hand side there, you see the red that shows up? You'll see it again in a few minutes here as we get closer. See? Right there, all that red. Okay, those are 0s. Now, I know that I had mentioned earlier that 0s, you may be able to go as low as 0s. Well, definitely I take that back because you can see here that 0 is clearly defining some sort of object. It's kind of a no-go area, if you will, okay? So definitely just stick with 2 as your lowest number as far as the AI drive cost goes, and you'll be okay. All right, see all the 0s popping up there on the right-hand side? Now we already passed it, but you'll notice that like if you go over a bridge or water or, you know, something like that, that you can see the 0s underneath, right? And that's where the AI spline, you know, that's where that comes into play. You know, the AI helps him move over, you know, that group of 0s. Okay. But you can see how everything is defined by the numbers, and this is exactly how the AI moves around, and this is what he sees, right? So it's something to keep in the back of your mind when you're doing your maps and you're putting down your textures and stuff, that you know, certain textures, you might want to use certain textures in certain areas based on their value, or change their value, you know, to make it easier for the AI to get around. All right. So pretty neat though, as he moves around, right? How you can kind of see how this is all working out, how, you know, the AI drive costs are defined, how you can visually see what's going on there. We just crossed that patch of red. Okay, so just wanted to give you guys an idea of what's going on there, so you have a better idea of what's going on under normal circumstances, right? A normal map, and this is what we're seeing. And we're gonna wrap this up, so hopefully it makes a little bit more sense to you guys now, this whole AI drive cost thing. So remember, we're going from, you know, your safe bet, your safe textures that start at a 2. And as you move up that ladder, you know, to 2, 3, 4, 5, and all the way up, it gets progressively more difficult, right? And there's a red that I'm talking about. If you look right here, sorry, I got to interrupt myself. Off to my left-hand side, see that those the 0s there, the red 0s, you know, he would never normally cross that. The AI would not. But there is an AI spline that goes through there, and that's going to help him over that little hump right there. Okay, so like I said, 2 being your safer bets, and all the way up to 16 plus. I'm not sure how high it goes, but those are your textures that you would not normally drive on. Okay, so keep that in mind, you know, when you're making your maps and as you're drawing in your textures and stuff like that, that you either might want to give them a new value, or just be careful of how you place certain textures in certain areas based on the value that they already have. Okay, with that being said, I am Bauer Brown, and I will see you on the next one.